So the next question is, how have you coped with the changes brought about by the pandemic?
Well, I think, like on a personal level, um, I don't know. Like in terms of coping, I think that really sewing has been cathartic. Right, sewing has kept me busy. It's kept me occupied. It's allowed me to know that or feel like I'm offering some sort of protection into the communities. And so sewing has been probably the biggest coping mechanism, like helping me to sew, like because it's something that I wouldn't otherwise have done. I guarantee you. Yeah, so how have I coped? I think that I've coped fairly well, but it's because of the fact that I feel like not just myself, but our whole team of seamstresses are there to. They really want to offer protection to our communities because the mask we put on our face, the mask I put on my face, is the mask that protects you. It's the mask that protects our families. It's the mask that protects our communities. It's the mask that protects our nations. And so my thing was, okay, I like to think of what we're doing in the same way I think of like an alarm system at home, a security system at home. Because with our security systems at home, we invest into them. We pay, so much a month and that sort of stuff into those security systems. And so I felt like with this pandemic, my security system, my form of protection was to put a mask on somebody else's face, right? Because if you're wearing a mask, I'm wearing a mask, we're protecting each other and that. And so initially, a lot of the things we did were self-funded. Like I paid for a lot of them to kickstart, and then gradually people started to end up coming on board. And I still pay, for a significant amount of things that are associated with this project. But I see it in the same way that I see my alarm system at home as offering protection to myself by doing this project. So I think because I've kept busy on something that I see as very important, that I've coped very well with, this pandemic. But there's not everyone has had the same experience that I have had. It's been very difficult. I mean, I'll give you an example. My mother's, and this does affect me, but my mother's husband, Rick Richardson, has been in the hospital on and off during the pandemic, and he has cancer. And so my mom, who is part of our sewing team, she's part of our seamstresses, she they drive in from Green Lake to here in Saskatoon, and she actually would sit, and it breaks my heart in that, because she would sit outside of the hospital at RUH for hours, like 12 hours, 14-hour days sitting, waiting to make sure that, just staying there so she could be close to her husband and that. And she's into her 70s and that. And stuff like that, you can't help but be affected by it. Like it's wrenching, because she couldn't even go in to see her husband and that, and they couldn't console each other during that difficult time and that. So that's been, I'd have to say that's that part of it has been hard, to kind of watch people who are going through struggles and they can't. And there's other bigger examples, so I'm mindful of those things that other people are experiencing, and they do have an impact on me because I do care about them. Right? But sewing has been really good for me.
Yeah. Is he okay, like your mom's husband?
Well, right now I'm actually going to be heading to Meadow Lake right away, today and that, because he's in the hospital and they're not too sure, what is happening and that, and so they're calling in family members. So yeah, it's been, but now they've lifted a little bit of the restrictions, and like mom's in a compassion room and she's able to share that room with him and that. So yeah, it's difficult, to go through those sort of things. Obviously, when things are, if you can ever say normal, right? But when you're going through a global pandemic, it's maybe a little bit creates a little bit more of a challenge. We're fortunate, I guess, in some ways, and I didn't think I'd ever say this because I used to bug my grandkids about the media and the iPhones and that, and spending too much time. But I mean, in some ways, it's that those iPhones have been really, that technology has been really useful in keeping people connected.
And now your name was given to me as someone who's used their culture, heritage, or like those kind of traditional Indigenous practices to help you in your to get through the pandemic. So how would you say that's true?
Oh, absolutely. Like, one of the things that I will say, and there's a couple of parts to that answer. First of all, I think that how I approached the whole, I guess, the whole initiative in terms of like making the masks and that, and how we would provide them and who we would provide them to, and why we were doing it especially, was based on, that principle. I think, my mom used to speak about it, like Miowakotuan, like about establishing good relations and that. And so that philosophy has guided me in terms of, not just my practice of work, like as a relationship-based lawyer, but also in terms of putting a mask on other people's face, because I believe that it doesn't matter, irrespective of race. Like, the people who are wearing masks are there to protect others. They're wearing that mask because they want to protect other people, right? And so I thought, well, within the Indigenous community, it sends a really strong message that there were so many people, Indigenous people, who wanted to wear those masks, not just to protect people within their community, but to also protect other people, right? And so that was my perspective about it. Now, although the initiative was intended to target, kind of the knowledge keepers, the elders, the veterans, and those people who will carry forward the stories, and that we're always receptive to providing masks to any community that was in need, and that and that was consistent with that concept of building good relations and that sort of stuff. So I want to say that, like, I always approached it from that perspective, right? We're here to build good relations. You're here to build good relations. So when I give you a mask and you choose to wear it, people are going, bravo, like she's wearing a mask, where they might not approach you within that context. So that's the first thing. But the other thing was that as I was making